When Sister Helen Prejean came to speak on campus, an audience member stood up at the end of her talk to thank her for her advocacy against the death penalty. This man was Derek Jamison, a now exonerated innocent man who spent 17 years on death row for crimes he didn't commit because he couldn't afford good enough representation to prove his innocence. Now, imagine how you think this man will feel when he watches the recent news story unfold about billionaire real estate heir Robert Durst, who, according to Fox News, has just recently been arrested for allegedly 2 or more murders in the last 20 or so years. This man, wealthy as can be, has been living without the consequences of these heinous crimes because he was able to afford the best representation in the country. Derek Jamison, underprivileged and innocent, spent 17 years on death row for crimes he didn't commit because he couldn't afford such representation. The fact that lawyers are allowed to charge their clients whatever they want means that the best lawyers often have the highest fees, leaving the less financially able citizens without an equal opportunity to get the same level of representation. As someone who's concerned with social justice, I've spent a good amount of time looking into and developing a genuine interest in this topic and a passion for finding a solution to the injustice that still exists in our legal system. In order to help people like Derek and to eliminate the financial discrimination that prevents opportunity to get good representation, there should be a maximum that lawyers are allowed to charge for their services, as well as a pro bono quota that all lawyers are required to meet. Today, I just want to explain to you why discrimination still exists in the legal system and how this specific solution will aim to solve the problem. First, I will explain the financial piece of the puzzle and how this creates discrimination in the court system due to excessively high legal fees. Then, I hope to further explain where the discrimination comes from and how lawyer quality also plays a really large role in creating the problem. And lastly, I will outline my proposed solution and explain why such a cap on lawyer fees and a quota for pro bono representation could potentially help eliminate the discrimination that I mentioned before. Although the government has taken many steps to help solve this problem, such as mandating that a lawyer be provided for anyone who can't afford one for themselves, these laws do very little to ensure that everyone has an equal opportunity to obtain the same level of representation. The first point I'd like to make is that financial discrimination is still present in the legal system when it comes to individuals purchasing their own legal services. It's becoming harder and harder for less financially able citizens to get the representation they need due to the overpricing of legal services. The U.S. Census data says that the average family income in 2013 was about $52,000. In an average month, these families spend about $1,400 on housing, $550 on food, $750 on transportation, and so on, leaving them with a whopping $272 to buy a lawyer if they were to get in some sort of trouble, all while sacrificing their ability to buy sports equipment for their kids or to take their kids out to a nice dinner to celebrate good grades on their last report card. Statista estimates that the average cost for a divorce in the United States, just one example of a common situation that requires the need of legal counsel, is about $15,000. Most average families are not able to afford this high of cost, so they get priced out of good lawyers, are forced to fall back on poor lawyers and public defenders, and are given a worse chance of getting a good outcome in court. People's varying ability and willingness to pay for legal services leads to much variety in the overall level of representation they receive. As stated in Gregory Mankiw's Principles of Macroeconomics, people respond to incentives. This means that people are more likely willing to work harder if the payout is potentially bigger, directly leading to the fact that better lawyers are going to charge more for their services. Because of these facts, richer citizens are more able to possibly pay these higher fees and consequently receive higher levels of representation. The second reason why this is such a problem is that the quality or status of a lawyer has a great effect on the outcome of a case. According to the University of Chicago Law Review, defendants who obtain lawyers that are in the 90th percentile of ability have a 14% less chance of being incarcerated. It also probably does not come as a surprise to most of us that public defenders tend to be of lesser quality when it comes to ability and therefore case outcomes. Marion Williams of Appalachian State University conducted a study that found that people who used public defenders were more likely to be detained pre-trial, more likely to be convicted, and less likely to have their cases dismissed. She claims, as a conclusion from her study, that defendants with public defenders representing them suffer from a lack of quality counsel. As you can see, the government's attempt to solve this problem by providing public defenders hasn't really solved this problem at all, because there still remains an incredible quality gap between private lawyers and public defenders. In order to combat this problem, I am proposing that there be a legal maximum on the fees a lawyer can charge for his or her services, as well as a quota for pro bono representation that all lawyers are required to meet. Such a law would help regulate the price of using a lawyer and bring the wide range of prices closer to an affordable cost, giving everyone a more equal shot at getting the best representation possible. This law would also give people who are usually unable to afford good representation increased access to it, as lawyers would be required to help the less financially able citizens as well. Put simply, something needs to be done to make the court system in the United States more fair, no matter what the situation. And this policy could help further the elimination of financial discrimination. In conclusion, discrimination still exists in our legal system, and this policy aims to push us farther towards eradicating the problem. The government has worked towards such eradication, but they've left large gaps in the solutions. The biggest problem lies with the act of purchasing legal representation and the fact that richer citizens have a better chance of getting better representation. And this begins to rival justice when more expensive representation has a better chance of getting you the outcome you want in court. Setting a maximum fee and a pro bono representation quota will help ensure that everyone has a more equal opportunity to be represented well, and that the hands of justice are no longer held down by money. Think about this. Do you want to live in a society where someone's future fate rests solely on how much money they've made up to that point? I know that I don't. Thank you.